January 9th, 2021. Woohoo! We made it, you guys. We made it through 2020. What a terrible year for everything, even beekeeping. No rain, no honey. Those poor girls, I hope they make it through the winter. But I thought we could start today off on our bee chat with what we're grateful about, because I think we all have a lot to be grateful for. And so I'm just going to go through as I see you guys. And then if you can just give me one or two words about why you're grateful, I think we can all get a lot out of this. So Brian, I'm going to start with you.
All my friends and family are safe, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Brian. Dale?
Trump is almost gone.
Yes, yes. I hope.
Yeah.
Dale Brunswick.
I am also grateful everybody's still healthy, at least close, and that I'm still employed so I can support my hobbies.
Yeah, that's a big thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kathleen Smith. And you guys can all take your stuff off mute if you want.
Grateful to have a new appreciation for family and health.
Totally. Hasn't that really been one of the benefits of COVID, is that we've reevaluated our lives and simplified and really looked at what's truly important. And a lot of junk and static in our life is really not as important as us and our families and safety and health. Okay, Jan.
I am grateful for our electronics to keep us connected during this time.
Yeah, if we didn't have it, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I have more to say, but I'm not going to say it today. But yeah, electronics really helps us get connected, because when you cannot talk to people, it's a great way to be there. Amy.
Right.
Okay, ditto what everyone else said. I'm just so thrilled everyone is still here. I have two 95-year-old parents that are still walking this earth through this mess, so I'm so grateful for that.
Totally. Yeah, Kathy?
And Jody,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Amy?
I can talk to you about your journey a little bit if you want, offline.
Yeah, we will. That would be great. Yeah, I feel very positive. I didn't feel very positive about a week ago, but I'm feeling better and better every day. You just live with it. Yeah. Okay, Kathy?
I am grateful for my family, and I am grateful because I'm going to Florida to get out of the cold for a week.
Oh, that sounds
and
so
I'm
nice.
really excited.
Yeah, that sounds great. Karen?
I'm grateful for my beekeeping community virtually. My goodness, I've expanded in friendships and international information. It's just been a godsend for me in the isolation.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Karen. Thank you very much. I agree. You know, without our bee sisters and brothers, but I have a lot of sisters now, and I really like my sisters. They're all really good people. So, yeah. Nance?
I'm thankful to be past the winter solstice, and for me, it's the new beginning of every year.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to be beyond it.
Yeah. Nice. And hopefully that queen is getting ready to lay if she hasn't started already. Yeah. Mary Ellen?
I'm grateful that we're all here.
It's a good thing. Steve?
There's so much, but at the highest level and moment, I think healing and respect, because all the other things are equally important, but at the highest order, we have a lot of healing to do.
We do. We've been through a lot in 2020. You know, like it doesn't matter if it's health or emotions or social. We've been through a lot. All of us have. It's like, could you have ever asked for more stuff to get put on your shoulders in 1 year? I mean, it didn't just happen overnight, but it's a lot for people. I don't know how people are dealing with it. You know, we're really lucky, but yeah, it's got to be really, really hard for some people that are really struggling, you know? Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Steve.
Best,
Beth? Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, just best to you, and stay positive, and you will heal.
I will. And in a sense, we'll all heal.
Yes.
Okay, Beth.
I think as far as family goes, I'm most grateful for my 3 sons and their wives, who are all first responders and medical professionals, and my 5 grandchildren, and we're all healthy and safe, and just very grateful for that.
I mean, we just don't think about, I noticed that the other day at the hospital, like everybody was saying that they don't have enough nurses, they don't have enough of this, they don't have enough of that. And we're not even in an area that's really inundated. And, like all of these emergency people and the people that are even the grocery clerks and anybody that's been there all this time, gosh, we are so lucky to have them. I've been lucky because I've been able to work from home ever since March. My company sent us home on, I think it was like March 13th, Friday. And we thought, oh, we're going to just go home for a little while and we'll be back. And no, I've been gone. I've only been back to, I work at WS Badger. I've only been back to Badger 3 times. And they have been so good and organized, and we are very lucky. So overall, we are all so lucky to have everyone in our lives that we've had. Yeah. Thank you, Beth. That's incredible that you have 3 kids that are all doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. Beverly.
I'm grateful for the last year or so. I have a new best friend, and I haven't had a best friend in a couple of decades. So I'm really appreciative of that and enjoying that.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, Melissa, I see that you just popped in. Are you there? Melissa?
Yes, I'm here.
Yay. So Melissa, what we're doing is we're saying just a couple of words about why we're grateful for 2021.
Well, we're grateful for good health, that's for sure.
Yes.
And a roof over our head and food on our plates and all big things.
Awesome. Awesome. It's good to have you here.
Thanks. I can't stay long, but I'm here for now.
That's great. And that's what you guys can do. You don't have to stay the whole time. You can pop in and out. We're going to be talking about Slovenian beekeeping today. So for this first hour, I think it's going to be really cool. And then the next hour is going to be even fun too. So, okay, Joanna.
Good morning.
Hey.
I am grateful just that despite whatever crazy keeps going on in the world, my life just is getting better and better. Last year was a wonderful year. Moved here with my boyfriend. It's been great. So
Awesome.
7 bees.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the simple things, it doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah. Art?
Hey, good morning, everybody. So I'm grateful for the fact that I was able to stay home this past year for the first time for work purposes. As I'm usually gone for 6 to 8 months a year, and this year is the first year in my married life and life as a father with my 2 daughters that I've ever been at home for the full year. So it's a blessing that I'm able to actually have this time together and truly be here and be present in mind and body with them.
Yeah, I agree, Art, because many of us, who would have ever thought that we could be home? I never ever thought I would ever be home. I love being home. I love seeing the birds outside that are at my house during the day that I would never have seen before, and seeing things that happen at my house that happen. And I can make errands to and from where I need to go instead of having to take 20 minutes or an hour or half my day to go to take a doctor's appointment. It's really crazy how, we're able to do a lot more things now. Yeah. Thanks, Art. Yeah, we do have a lot to be grateful for. Hey, Francie. Yeah. Hey, Francie's going to be taking the Master Beekeepers course, you guys. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah. So, Francie, what are you grateful for? Take off your mute.
I'm grateful for still learning how to use technology, even though I should, because my whole house is like all technology. My children, it's embarrassing how I'm so embarrassing to them. Anyway, I am actually grateful for the process of constantly learning, where, just evolving and learning. And actually recently, I'm grateful for a gentleman that got me into beekeeping a long time ago. We reconnected. I haven't talked to him in 18 years, and he used to do bee removal, and I was his assistant. And I thought, well, it's probably time to, you know, reconnect with people, because that's just, things are slowing down, and why not? And it was actually very cool to chat with him. So yeah.
Isn't it cool to talk to beekeepers when you know a little bit about beekeeping and you can
Yeah.
actually carry on a conversation?
Yeah,
'Cause
and
you
it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
And
from California, and so he had all these questions, because, you know, they don't winterize like we winterize, and so he had a slew of questions, and it was actually kind of fun to just go back and forth and talk about what we're doing and the learning process, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I think that it just gets better and better, because that's one of the things that I miss about not going to like the New Hampshire beekeepers meetings and things like that, is that not intellectual, but that educated conversation with beekeepers. You know, like all of us were beginners once, but once we're beginners, we're learners and we go on from there. And so we want to encourage people, but it's so much more stimulating to talk to people that, you know, you can talk and have a real conversation with. Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah. Okay. We have somebody that's admin. I'm not sure who that is.
I think it's Suzanne.
Okay. Suzanne, are you admin?
Her mute is on.
Yeah, I'm going to ask her. I asked you to take your mute off, Suzanne. Can you take your mute off? There you go.
Yep, I did.
Oh, we can hear you, Suzanne.
Oh, good.
Yay. Okay, I'm going to take you off the phone then.
Okay, that sounds good.
Oh, this is great, Suzanne. This is like rocket science. Woohoo.
Well, now I have to see if I can put my presentation up. How would I do that?
Let's not get there yet. Just one second. I'm going to rename you Suzanne to Suzanne. Okay. You are now Suzanne instead of admin.
Oh, thank you.
We gotta give you some education, Suzanne. So,
yeah,
but
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Suzanne, we have two more people after you. What are you grateful for?
I am grateful that everyone in my family is healthy, and I have been beyond employed this entire time, doing 80 hours a week. I do elder home care. So you can imagine they can't put their loved ones in nursing homes these days. So I have been more than busy, and I'm looking forward to traveling this year. I'm very glad that last year's over.
Yeah, because didn't one of your friends, didn't Renee get stuck in Slovenia?
Yes, two friends and I bought a house in Slovenia last year, a year and a half ago. And she went over last February to pick out, you know, the bathroom stuff and tiles and things like that. And she went just for 10 days and she was there for 4 months.
Yeah, because COVID hit right when she was over there.
Yes, I actually called her and I said, by the way, I'm not sure if you can, but you better get out if you can. And she could have gotten as far as England, but then she would have been stuck in England.
Yeah.
So she was at her house for 4 months, and by the end of that, she didn't ever want to come back here again.
Seriously, when you guys see Slovenia, and we have a few pictures today, but when you see Slovenia, to me, it is magical. I remember the first day that I've got Lynn and Pat to get to too, but I remember the first day I woke up, because we got there at night a few years ago. And I woke up and it was foggy and the roofs were there. And it was just like, I woke up in a different land, a different world. It was just amazing. And that was just the start of it. What's that?
It's a gorgeous country.
It is. It is. I hope everybody gets a chance to go someday. Yeah. Okay. Lynn.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. I'm grateful for many things, but I'm really grateful that I'm healthy enough this year to do beekeeping again.
Awesome. I know. We all have our challenges, but we have to do what we can. And I don't know about you guys, but don't you feel like the bees give you energy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, on a bad day or on a day that you've been really stressed out, or, you know, like that's what I really miss in the winter, is being able to go and get that little jolt of re-energizing, because there's something about the bees. They don't know probably that they do it to us, but anyway, I can't go on. I'm sorry.
It's all bee air, Jody.
It
It's
is.
all bee air.
Well, Suzanne can talk to you about that too, because in Slovenia, they have a thing that you put a mask on and you breathe bee air for the night. So it's pretty cool. Okay, Pat, and then we're going to get into this Slovenian stuff.
Okay, I'm very grateful.
It's Karen. It's not Pat.
It's Karen, right?
I'm going to change your name too, Pat.
Okay.
To Karen. Okay, go ahead.
I'm very grateful for our healthcare workers and the scientists and all of responders and the people who make our world work every day, such as the grocery people, et cetera. But our scientists also for creating a vaccine in record amount of time so that we have some hope this year to get over this horrible pandemic.
Yeah, totally. Hey, I have a message here. It says, I missed it. Just one second. I got to get back to the messages. Just one second in the chat. I'm sorry. I'm not paying attention to the chat. It makes it kind of confusing, but there's one message here. It says, I am thankful for Mrs. Lynn, who has been a wonderful friend and encouragement for me and my family. And what else do we have here? Somebody congratulated Francie. Simplify, Henry David Thoreau, awesome. And I give you guys my hugs too. I miss you guys so much, I can't tell you. And I'm a hugger, so this is really hard during COVID for all of this. Okay, all right, so I'm going to get out of the chat now. We are gonna start the conversation on Slovenian beekeeping. We only have about a half an hour. Maybe just a little bit over it, but there is a lot to learn. If you know bees, you're one step ahead on Slovenian beekeeping because bees are bees. You have to know how to read a frame no matter what. But Slovenian beekeeping is one of those things that you don't have to lift heavy boxes, but you do have to be proactive and you have to plan ahead because you only have, and Amy's shaking her head because she knows from her first year as an AJ beekeeper, she was a Langstroth beekeeper the year before, but as an AJ beekeeper, you only have so much space. You either have 2 stories or you have 3 stories. And if you have 3 stories, that's good. It's a backup. But 2 stories, you got to plan on what are you going to do with your bees? Because if they really get full, and they do get cranky, Suzanne, don't they?
Yes, I've had a few of those.
Yes. So when they get really packed full, they get cranky. And they also will start to get ready to swarm. So you've got to really make some choices beforehand on Slovenian hives. Like I always try to have a backup for everything anyway. But with Slovenian bees, everything's stationary. Your bees are in a house. So we have Slovenian beekeeping with Suzanne Brule. She's in Harrisville, New Hampshire. And there is a lot to learn. Again, we all know how to keep bees, hopefully, or we're getting there. And Slovenian beekeeping is just another way to keep bees, but you keep them inside of some kind of an enclosure. And what I find this really helpful for is the fact that if you have a really strong northern wind, this is very, very helpful. So Suzanne, you are on. Let's learn more about Slovenian beekeeping.
Okay, let's see if I get this right. Okay, you guys see that picture?
We do.
Okay, great. Okay, so this actually is the bee house that I designed mine after here in Harrisville. There are, so to give you a little bit of background, New Hampshire and Slovenia are about the same size land-wise. We have 1.6 million people, they have 2 million people. We have, from what I can figure out, about 2,000 beekeepers. Slovenia has over 10,000 beekeepers. So bee houses, you find them, they're all over the place. On my tours, we visit several different places. We go to castles, we do caves, we do wine tastings. So there you can see where Slovenia is. It's bordered by Italy and Austria, Hungary, and Croatia. It's a very tiny country.
Suzanne, when we were there, remember we went to Italy?
Yes.
We took
went to
a
Venice for the
train.
day.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It's gonna be really cool if the trip goes in May because there won't be that many tourists there. We'll have the whole place to ourselves. So
2022.
Yes, I already have people ready to sign up for that one.
Don't let too many because this is a special trip.
I know it will be. So Slovenia has several different, they have stationary bee houses. They do a lot of transport systems with the trucks or pulling the one like the small one on the bottom left. So because there are so many beekeepers in Slovenia, they do not need to go somewhere to pollinate anything. The country is pollinated. What they do is they will do the transport system to get a certain flow, like the chestnut flow or the acacia flow. I have collected up to 17 different kinds of honey so far in Slovenia. So Ajay is named after Anton Steenerstich, and it was a beekeeper, a German beekeeper started this style of beekeeping, and Alberti Steenerstich, which is a Slovenian guy, ended up finishing it. The bee houses back in the 1800s were decorated with what we call bee panels. There are 600 known bee panels, and they tell stories. They're political, they're satirical, they're the family life. They joke about things. And you have to remember, back in the 1800s, people were illiterate. So this was a way of telling their history or telling stories about what happened in their country or whatever. So now there are about 300 of these panels that are regularly reproduced. They're all hand painted. I do have a bunch of them here also. And since I cannot even draw a stick man, they're on my hives. Although if you are artistic, you can put whatever you like on them. So these are just some different, you can see the bee panels down here on the bottom right side. Or if you're artistic, like the top left one, which I could never make that happen unless it was like drawn out and had to stay in the lines or something. So this is the basic hive, the 2 level. There's also like the 3 level. You see inside, across the back, there are slots where the frames fit into, and they sit on top of these metal bars. In between the top and the lower level is a queen excluder. And see, also get the 3 levels. So with the 3 level, you can have 1 frame brood, 2 honey, or 2 frame brood and 1 honey. You have a little bit more of a choice, or you can have 3 nukes. You can put a solid board in between the levels, and you can have 3 nukes or splits or whatever you need to use it for.
Yeah, so Suzanne, one thing that people probably don't realize is that each level does it, how you can see it now. Each level has a queen excluder, or you put a solid, or you put one that has holes. So I'm sure you're going to go into that more, but there's always something in between each level.
Yes, because if you look on the picture on the left, the upper screen has to sit on that thin board that's part of the queen excluder. So if you take that out, you have to put something else there, or there'll be a gap across the top of that screen that the bees can get out. So also in this picture, you see there's the board with the 3 holes. That's for putting bottles of sugar water on. So you can feed your bees without bothering them, without opening them up. The upper frame that you see in this hive is a feeder that you pour sugar water into that cardboard part that you see. And that's also been a great way of feeding the bees, because again, you don't have to bother them or open them up.
Yeah, and Suzanne, what I did in mine, because everybody can do something different. If you can go back to that other one, if you can, what I've done actually, if you can't, that's okay. But what I've done is I actually purchased additional feeders so that I could put a feeder on each level.
Yes.
And the other thing that I really like about the Slovenian bees is that you can go in and you open the door. It's like having a cabinet of bees, which is kind of cool, opening the cabinet and whoop, I've got bees. And they can't come out because it's all screened off, but you can get an idea of where they're at because you can see everything that's going on. And as Suzanne said, you can feed them very easily. You don't have to get stung. It's very easy to pour the water in. And surprisingly enough, the water does not fall out or slip through the masonite.
And also, like it shows here on the left-hand side, you can, usually the feeder screen is down below where the queen is, because the lower deep is the queen and brood, then the queen excluder, and then the upper level is for the honey frames. So if you're feeding them and if you're not going to be around or you're going to be gone for a couple of days or something, you can move the feeder up like it shows here, and also put bottles on the bottom, so you have a lot more sugar water to provide them for. So the other nice thing about the Slovenian beekeeping is that everyone can do it. Because you're not lifting anything but 1 frame at a time, it opens up beekeeping to people with handicaps. This gentleman lost both of his legs from diabetes, but he still is a beekeeper. Children can do it because the most you're ever going to lift is 6 or 7 pounds of a frame. This is Slovenia's first handicapped bee house. We visited this a couple of years ago. That's Dusan. He was in a car accident, so he lost the use of his legs. And beekeeping brought him back to having a life again. He was very depressed after the car accident because it was so traumatic. But he works here and he takes care of the bees and he loves it. And you can see that the bees are up higher so he can get underneath it with his wheelchair. And we have, I have a customer in Massachusetts that is in a wheelchair, and they are building a brand new bee house that will be handicap for handicap use. This is the outside of that bee house. It's a beautiful bee house.
Wow.
So this shows a frame. The frames are a different size than the Langstroth. These are shorter from side to side, but longer from top to bottom. And the frames are indented top and bottom because they sit on top of the 3 metal bars. And because it's indented, they do not propolize them into the bars. If it was flat, they would.
They've really done a lot of practicing and figuring out on these hives because they really do work very well.
It
takes a little practice getting the frames into the
yes, that's just a matter. Yeah, that does take practice.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to be blind when you put them in. You don't even want to look. You just want to do it by feel.
Yeah. This gentleman here in this picture, I was driving with a Slovenian friend of mine, and we just saw him on the side of the road, and we just parked the car and went over and started talking to him. I thought it was a cute little setup that he has here.
Yeah.
He was really nice.
So Suzanne, one thing that we haven't talked about is that the bee houses don't have to be real houses. Sometimes they're just little sheds or enclosures.
But these hives have to be under protection. They are not meant to ever be out like a Langstroth. So you can have, and I might have some pictures. So someone brought up the bee air. So this is a bee house that provides bee air. And I have to tell you, the 3 of us, that's me on the far end there by the wall, the 3 of us sat down and put that on. And Diane, the first one here, the white hair, she was snoring within, I swear to God, like 5 seconds flat. It's so mellowing and it's so calming. And so the bee air is good for allergies, asthma, poor sleeping, stress, headaches, and a good portion of the bee houses now offer this as but you can also do it yourself. I sell the kit, so it's easy to set it up for yourselves too.
And they must have a little screen on them, right?
They do have a screen. You're not sucking in bees.
No, right. Ouch.
The houses are just amazing. When you go into these things, they are, the workmanship is incredible. I mean, Suzanne's house has a sink in it and she's got a bed in hers. You know, like these guys, they're not just bee houses, they're bee houses.
Right. And it's amazing. It doesn't matter how many hives they have in there. When you walk in, they're always clean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're very, strict about making sure things are clean and organized, and so they're ready to go for the next time when they go in.
So I have to tell you, Suzanne, every time I go into my hives, I think of you and I think, oh, I've got to sweep my floor and I've got to make sure that everything looks presentable before I leave, because this is how you do it in Slovenia. Yeah, there's Suzanne.
Well, I always make sure my bee house is clean, and also I call them my barn bees are on the 2nd floor, and I think I have a picture in here. But because people just pop in, or people will call and say, I'll be there in a half an hour. And I just always have to have it organized because I just never know. And I also, I love just going in my bee house just to be in the space. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So in Slovenia, they have the bee culture is part of their culture from kindergarten all the way through. So there probably are more now. There's at least 160 primary schools that have bee clubs. So they mentor with local beekeepers, and after school, they will go to the beekeeper and learn about beekeeping. The schools have beekeeping day trips. I've seen them as young as 3 years old visiting bee houses and talking to them about bees. One of the schools, I'm not sure if it's on this presentation, but we visited a school, I think 3 years ago and they had a bee house on school property, which I can't imagine happening here, but it was on school property. And their mentor, Bronco, has a queen rearing business. And he had 3 students in there that were 11 and 12 years old, and they were grafting. And
Well,
they
you
were
know,
so meticulous about it. I mean,
yeah.
it was amazing to watch them.
Well, Suzanne, little kids have really good eyes, and they're very, it's very easy for them to get into things without shaking their hands.
Yeah.
And that's why they say that children are really good at grafting queens.
Ah, that was
Yeah.
bee.
Yep.
And what was cool is that one of the girls is highly allergic to bees, and her parents wanted to pull her out, and she said, absolutely not, I have to be with my bees. So she just has an EpiPen with her and continues on.
Yeah. You don't get stung all that often. I mean, for somebody that is allergic, that's important to know, but
Yeah.
The chances of getting stung are pretty minimal if you're taking care of yourself and you know what to do.
Right, right. So here you can see these kids are pretty young, but they learn about bees, and they have the third Thursday in November, they have what they call the honey breakfast. And beekeepers will bring their honey to the local schools, and they will sit down with the children, and they have the typical poor man's breakfast, which was an apple, bread with honey on it, and milk. And the beekeepers will sit at these little bitty tables with these little kids, and they talk about bees. And they've been doing this for years, and it's starting to spread to some of the other countries.
You know, Suzanne, I like that. You know, we as older beekeepers need to share what we know with younger people. And that's the only way that things are going to continue on, because there's a lot of older beekeepers that sometimes don't want to share their information. But how are we ever going to get better if we don't do that kind of stuff? I think what they do is great.
Exactly. So this is the bee house that's on the school property. That's the school over to the left. So I think I do have a picture of them. There they are, grafting queens. So the first place that we start my tours is Bled, which is, as you can see, stunningly gorgeous.
So
And
let
in the
me just say one thing. The water isn't really that cold, and it only takes about a half an hour to swim out there. I'm just saying.
I have swam to that island a couple of times.
Yeah.
The mountains in the back are actually in Austria. So this is on the northern part of Slovenia, which has winters more like we do. They can be long, cold with a lot of snow. This is the bee house. There's a farmhouse that I've been going to since 1992, and it's run by the same family. And so all of my tours, we start at this bed and breakfast. And this is the bee house that doesn't belong to them, but belongs to the neighbor, but it's right behind the bed and breakfast. And there's Nancy. You recognize yourself, Nancy?
Oh, it hasn't come through. There we are. Yep. There's
there
Nancy.
you are. That's you. So this bee house is actually in the park in Bled.
Yep.
Totally public area. There are no signs that say beware of the bees, don't come close, you might get stung, you know, nothing. There's no fence around it, nothing. And when they put before they were planting all these annuals all the time, and Blas, the beekeeper that we visit on my trips, he helps to manage this, and he told the town, he goes, why are you doing annuals? Why don't you plant perennials that are bee friendly? You save yourself a ton of money. So they got rid of all the annuals, and now they've planted all bee friendly perennials.
Nice.
And you can go out to the island or go across the lake, and these are what they call gondolas. It's actually fun.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah. Lake Bled is one of my favorite places for Slovenia. I don't know if it's because that was the first place that we went to, Suzanne, but there's something, again, magical about this area.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And it probably doesn't hurt that you drink wine and eat cheese and meat the whole time too. Hey, I think that might be us.
It is us.
That might be me in the middle. Yes, it is.
Yep, there you are. So if you look here, you've got the island over in the front to the right, and the castle is up on the left. So as you're swimming to this island, you have this ancient church that's, you know, over 1,000 years old, and then you have this big castle sitting up on the cliff. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. And out on that island, Suzanne, what's the story with the 100 steps or something?
Oh gosh, I know there is a story to that, but
it's something
I
to do
don't
with
know well enough to repeat it.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out again. But there's like 100 steps that you have to walk up to, and then there's a bell tower in it, and it's again still just magical. It's
very. So this is the first beekeeper we visit. This is Blage. He's incredibly knowledgeable, and this is his first bee house. And that's Blage, and this is a hive that they found out in the woods. Some guy was out mushrooming, and he saw this. He called them up, and they went out and they cut this out of a tree and brought it back, and he put it in a box. And he's had this now for 7 or 8 years. And they are the calmest bees. I mean, you can put your face right up to that comb and they won't even acknowledge your existence. And I've been here, I don't know how many times, and they're the same way every single time.
Yeah, I'm sure they've swarmed a few times, so that it's just generation after generation. But isn't that beautiful stuff?
It's gorgeous. So this is the inside of Blage's bee house. So the thing about the bee house is that you can do whatever you want with them. Some people, it's their guest house also. Blage is in business and he teaches school children. So he has that plexiglass up. So the school children are on the left side. He can explain everything. They don't have to worry about being stung or the bees flying around them. Now he has taken the back doors off because he finds them cumbersome. So when you have a lot of beekeepers that have a lot of hives have taken the back doors off and they just leave the foam on year round.
And when you're saying back doors, you're talking back doors of the hives.
Yes, the wooden back doors.
So where you're seeing that tan stuff, that's all foam. And
Yes.
if you didn't see the foam there, you would see doors.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have the doors on mine, but we have been to a few where the doors opening and closing them all the time, it just gets in their way.
Yeah.
The thing that for winterizing.
Yeah, the thing that I have a problem with the foam is that I have mice. And the mice love to chew up that foam.
Well,
so we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But yeah. But the foam is good because it gives you ventilation. It's just like anything for any hive. It's great to have ventilation.
It gives ventilation, but it also absorbs moisture.
Yes, yes.
So these are Blage's 2 kids. They're much older now, but this is when they were younger. And they're both allergic to bees.
But they're wearing suits, so they shouldn't get stung.
That's right.
Yeah.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah. I think it's a great thing to do with little kids to get them started. But that is the major thing, is you do not want those kids getting stung, because if they do, that's going to ruin their thoughts about bees and pollinators for a long time.
Right. So this is Blage's second bee house. This is his apitherapy bee house. And if you look on the front over to the right, you'll see a glass window that goes from top to bottom. Do you guys see that?
Yep. It's in between the flag and the hives, the blue, red, and blue hives. You can just barely see that that's glass there.
Window. This is something I did not do in my mind, which I wish I had done. So where you see the light in the back of that is that window. And he has bunk beds. He now has mattresses on those. So you can lay there and breathe the bee air. And that's looking out from that glass. So what's really cool about this, and you can have a chair there or a bench there, is that you can be inches away from the bees and nothing's going to happen to you. So it's a great tool for teaching people. You know, you can show them the different colors of the pollen that come in or the dances that they do. So yeah, I screwed up on this one. I did not have this put on mine, but I have expansion plans, so who knows. So this is this is Slovenia. This is the area where I used to live. And I used to go horseback riding all the time. The horseback riding was just stunning. And
I want to go horseback riding when we go back.
Okay. So like I said, we also do wine tastings. At least 2 wine tastings on the trip, but we drink wine every day anyways, because you can drink a lot of this and you do not have a hangover because they don't have all the junk in it that we do in the States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have proven this over and over for many years, so I can tell you it's true.
Yeah,
This is put on, Slovenia has a very small coastline, just like New Hampshire has a very small coastline. It's a beautiful little fishing village. Of course, it's more touristy now than actual fishing village, but we'll be spending a day here in May also. Let's see. So this is Tomaj's bee house, and he has 2 levels and 3 levels. And he had someone paint right on the hives, as you can see. They're not the separate bee panels. And this is the inside of his bee house. Look how clean it is. So his father manages the 3 levels and he manages the 2 levels. And you can see across the top of the former ones, you can see a bunch of nuke boxes. So there's 5-frame and 7-frame nuke boxes that you can also have in your bee house. And this is Tomaj. So we don't use that regular smoker that you use with Langs, because that thing drives me nuts. We have compressed wood sticks, which is more than enough. If you think about it, with a Lang, you've got the whole top of the hive open, so you need more smoke because it just dissipates. But these are enclosed structures, so you don't need that much smoke. And those little smoke sticks work perfectly. And this is his bee truck. And that's inside his bee truck.
Clean again.
Clean again. Wow. This is a center that we go to that is for handicapped adults. And I'm going again in May.
I'd like to go back there too.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I'm in the front in the blue shirt, and the girl that's behind me to the right, Alenka, she's one of the artists. They do craft type things. She's actually a very good artist, and she and I are emailing now back and forth regularly.
That's great, Suzanne. I have panels that I got when I was there from them. That was
Yeah,
one of the most special parts of the trip.
Yeah, they don't make junk stuff. I mean, they really make some nice stuff, and there's probably 30 adults in there. 10 of them live on the premises, and a couple of them, the reason we ended up going there the first time was because a couple of them are training to be beekeepers. And so that is what you can see, their little bee stand right there. But we had a wonderful time with them. And this is the trip that Nancy and Jody both went on. So, I mean, the size of your bee house, it could be anything. If you're going to build something, think about what's the most you ever want. If the most hives you ever want is 4, then of course you don't need a big bee house. I have 12 2 levels in mine. So of course mine's bigger. That's actually has bees in it. It's an old wine keg. That would be cool. I'd like
that. That was in the park, wasn't it? Where we tasted all those different honeys.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what they do in this park is it's a bee park. And what they do is that they have signs for all of the plants and bushes that are for pollinating bees. So you can see the nectar is on the bottom, shows you how much nectar this particular plant does. And when it flowers, the month that it flowers would be May. And then how much pollen is over on the left side. So it's really kind of, I always want to do this in my garden, but
you should.
I know I haven't.
It's a lot of work, but it's beautiful.
It is a lot of work, but I think it's a great thing for educating people.
Yeah.
And then of course afterwards, naturally, there's there's honey liqueur, there's food, there's honey liqueur, food and wine everywhere you go. So you just eat all day long.
Yeah, and I do have my New Hampshire beekeepers shirt on. Just letting you know, guys.
Oh, you're done. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is another bee house that we do on all my trips because it's one of our favorite places to go to.
Picnic.
And Andrea is a 4th generation beekeeper and her daughter is a 5th generation beekeeper. And her daughter does honey massage. You do honey massage on the back and it pulls out the impurities from your organs. So you can see those frames behind on the back of the bed. That is like an observation hive. So they have an entrance to come and go. And then above the bed, you see all these old pictures. And I'll go back to that in a second. So where her hives are in here, that screening up on top is a place where you can sleep. And to the left where those doors are, she has a little kitchenette there.
Doesn't she
And
have a
this is her
cabinet?
husband's
There
hive.
it is, the cabinet.
Her daughter, her and her daughter do all the beekeeping, but this is her husband's hive. And every time he goes back, he wonders why there's nothing left. It's because every time she brings groups out there, we drink it.
Right. Isn't that number 7 or something?
That's number 7 in Deb's hive in Harrisville.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is her family. So that's her. The youngest one is her, and then her mother was also a beekeeper. This was her grandfather, this was the old bee house. This one actually, unfortunately, burned down. And it probably burned down because someone was smoking to smoke the bees and probably left the cigarette or the pipe down somewhere. I love this picture. That is the cutest thing ever. And then we have this incredible picnic with the biggest picnic table I've ever seen. And she pulls up with her car. I mean, nothing is set up when we get there. There's not even a tablecloth when we get there. And within a half an hour, we are eating a full 4, 5, 6 course meal.
And
I don't know how she does it.
Suzanne, this is what I kind of put things after, like when we do our tours now in New Hampshire, is a delicious lunch, because these lunches are amazing. I mean, this is like you went to a gourmet deli and got all the food. It's just incredible. I didn't want to stop eating, but I was full. But it was just incredible, and everybody enjoyed themselves. The food is delicious. The scenery is wonderful.
And she's made everything. Everything's made from scratch.
Yeah.
Everything. The places we stay on my tour are only farmhouses. So everything is made from scratch. And actually, you can eat a lot more food without putting on weight because it is all made from scratch. I always feel like I put on 10 pounds at the end of the tour, and I usually only put on 2. And it's a lot of food, but it's really good. So you can see she walks on top of the table to serve you.
Another thing,
sit on top of the table.
If you go, I just wanted to point out that in that picture, Jody, the gentleman to Jody's right is from England, and the couple to her left are from Sweden. And you really, it's a very eclectic group of people, and you meet some really interesting characters on the tour as well.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is that the people will contact the tour agency I work with and say, do you have something in English? And so she'll contact me and she'll say, well, I have these people from Sweden. Can they go on your tour? And I'm like, well, of course, why not? So I've had people from New Zealand, Australia, England, Scotland, Canada. I think that's it so far. But it's always been interesting. It always adds another flavor to it, and you get to know somebody from another country. So
nice.
Totally.
And these guys here, he has had cousins from Slovenia, and while he was on the tour, his cousin met up with him at one of the bee houses, so they got to see each other. So this is back in my area. This is the Socha River, and it really is that color, and that water really is frigid cold.
Oh gosh, look at that.
It's absolutely beautiful.
I know. This is the Socha River Valley.
So what we're looking at, can you go back, Suzanne, just for a quick? What we're looking at is that bridge brings us over to where we were in cabins over on the right-hand side.
No, that's a different bridge.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I think I have the Napoleon
So
Bridge.
this one doesn't bring you into town?
No, this is over in Mosna Socha. This is a different part.
Okay, but yeah, still the water is amazing, and you actually can see the fish in the water too in some places.
Yeah, you can't swim in it without a wetsuit on because you would freeze.
Wow.
But you can go down in kayak. They have trips that will go down.
Yeah. So when we spend a couple of days in this area, that's when I can offer everyone. And I don't schedule anything for these 2 or 3 days that we're here because I want to see what the group wants to do. One group, we all went whitewater rafting. Everyone wanted to go. Other groups, they just want to go hiking or do their own thing. So I just leave this part open so we can see what we want to do. I could organize anything anybody wants to do in this area. And when Jody and Nancy went on it, we went to Venice for the day.
Yeah. And otherwise, like we had gone so many places after that, I was just ready to just take it all in and relax. I didn't need any more, as much as I love doing all those things, but yeah. And so this is at the Institute?
Now this is that Franz Civitz. I've got pictures mixed up. This isn't from your trip.
No, but this is the guy that we talked with, I believe.
Yes, we talked to him at the Slovenian Beekeepers Association. This is his gallery in his own museum, and that's him when he was young with the bee beard. And he is the type of beekeeper that he could talk for days and you would never get bored, because he talks in a way that is so simple and so easy to understand, and you just don't want to leave him. And so we will be spending about 4 hours with him on the May trip, because I love being around him. He's just so interesting. And he's so knowledgeable. So in this part of Slovenia, which is called the karst area, is where they have thousands of caves. And so their bee houses are made with stone, because there's so much stone there. And this gentleman here is a 4th generation beekeeper.
I remember him.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And this is another bee bus. There's another stone one. This is by one of the caves that we go to.
That was on a hike that we went to, I think, wasn't it?
This was the Skojanski Jama caves. And some of us, I don't know if these are mixed up pictures, so I don't know if they're from Europe. I've done 9 trips, so I get them all.
But I do remember that bee house.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bee house. And then there's the Pajomsky, the castle. This kind of has an interesting history. You see the little bitty building on the left-hand side is kind of by itself? Well, that's the bathroom. And back when King Aramis had the castle, his enemy was trying to besiege the castle to gain control.
Oh, the bathroom?
They couldn't get into the castle. Jody, you're jumping the story. And so they decided, well, if we can't invade it, let's just cut off their food. Well, what the enemy didn't realize is that they have tunnels that go through to the other side to the valley, where they were going to farmers and collecting fresh food and throwing it at the enemy. Well, that pissed the enemy off. So finally they found a servant that they bribed, and the servant said, well, King Aramis goes in to do his constitution every day at 2 o'clock. So they aimed the cannon at the bathroom and they got him. What a way
Terrible.
to go.
Oh.
This is one of the caves that we go into. This is Postonia. It's the largest show cave in Europe. You go in on an electric train, which is really cool. And Lipizan horses are from where Slovenia is now. Of course, years ago, it was under the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but the original stud farm from 1780, I think it's 1784, is in Slovenia. And sometimes, usually on every tour, we'll at least drive through so we can see the horses. And you'll see 50 of them out in the field running around, they're just beautiful. I wanted to adopt this cat. That's a pretty cool bee house cat.
Oh, I remember that one. That house has so many bee houses. I don't know how they could have enough bees in the area, but they're in an area where there's lots of grape plants, but grapes actually don't need pollinators, but they must get all kinds of pollination over there.
So this is a map of Slovenia, and where you see the star is where I lived. I was living in Italy, which you can see is very close to the border. I worked for the US Army for 12 and a half years. And during my last 6 years, I ran the travel office. I was the travel director for 6,000 Americans, military. And so I started taking trips into Slovenia, and that area was close to the border. And so on one of my trips, I fell in love with, this is the area. And you can't really see it, but if you go past that first mountain, you might see some little houses or some little white things. That's the area where I lived. And this is the view that got me. This is the view I fell madly in love with. Those are the Julian Alps in the back. And when I saw this view, my inside said, this is where you're moving next. And I found a house a couple months later and went back and forth every other weekend. And I finally quit my job with the Army and moved up there and lived here full time for 5 years. So the village I lived in is the one in the back. And it's the last village before you go into Slovenia's largest national park, Triglav National Park. And the name of my village, which took me at least 2 years to say properly, is Drzeszczkowany. And if I spelled it out for you, you would never get Drzeszczkowany out of it. That's the house I rented for 8 years. I lived upstairs and rented out the downstairs as a bed and breakfast. And the house that we bought is 2 houses behind this. This is my front yard. That church was built in 1511. This is the house that we bought. So I have the downstairs apartment and Scott and Renee have the 2nd and 3rd floor. We're still renovating it. So I still have all the same neighbors that I had when I lived there. So that thrills me. And I love the village.